Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Onside Kick Show. This is episode 4. My name is Zach Stein. I'm joined by my good friend, Mr. Gavin Lemke.
Yeah, thanks for having me back on, Zach.
Of course, dude. If you guys were listening last week, or actually last week, we recorded a podcast separately and uploaded it to the YouTube channel, but I had Gavin on here. We were talking about the Lions and some other cool stuff then. So if you want to go check out that podcast, we did upload it to the YouTube channel, the Onside Kick Show. You can find a link to the YouTube channel through our Instagram page, which is at Onside Kick Show. So go check that out for some good football content. But we're back today. We're going to be talking about some more exciting stuff. We have a lot of things to talk about. So why don't we go ahead and kick off today with our trivia like usual. Last week, we kind of got screwed with a bad question. It was like, how many quarterbacks wear headbands or something?
Yeah, I think it was fraudulent. Players on there that they said wore headbands was Jalen Hurts. I just simply disagree. I think if you watch any of his games, he takes off his helmet on the sidelines. It's a skull cap, not a headband. They hoodwinked us there. They bamboozled us. But we're back this week, and I think we can get this one.
Yeah, let's go in blind here. We'll hope for the best. So, trivia for December 1st, 2023. Happy December, everybody. So Tampa Bay and Carolina play this week. Neither one of these franchises has ever selected an offensive player in a college draft who has gone on to be elected into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So what is the only franchise that has been around even longer in the Super Bowl era that hasn't picked an offensive player who's been to the Hall of Fame? That was a lot of words. I'm going to summarize that. So it starts, Tampa Bay, Carolina never had an offensive player who's a Hall of Famer.
Wow.
And so there's one franchise that has been around for longer than Tampa Bay and Carolina that doesn't have an offensive Hall of Famer. What is that one team?
That's a tough question, man. I mean, you and I, we're relatively young. We don't know the history of the league like that. I wasn't alive when the first teams came into the league. I know Tampa Bay and Carolina are relatively new teams. Tampa Bay, I think, came in like the 80s or 90s. Mm-hmm. Same with Carolina.
Yeah, Panthers was, I think, mid-90s.
What are kind of some other franchise teams or expansion teams that came into the NFL in the 80s or 90s?
Texans was after them. The Jaguars, right off the bat, actually. I think maybe the Jaguars would be, because...
Did they have a Hall of Famer?
Keenan McCardell was there. I don't know if he is in the Hall of Fame.
Who was that Jags running back in the day?
Maurice Jones-Drew?
Maurice Jones-Drew is not a Hall of Famer.
No, not yet. I don't think he's eligible yet. And he's not probably going to make it, but... Yeah, I would say, because Mark Brunell was Jags quarterback as well. He's one of those guys that probably will be in the Hall of Fame, but not as a first ballot.
The guy I was thinking of was Fred Taylor.
Oh, yeah, Fred Taylor. Yeah,
he's a Hall of Famer.
Is he?
Fred Taylor deserves to be a Hall of Famer.
No, he definitely does. I don't know if he is, though. I mean, he's got 11,000 rushing yards. He's not currently in the Hall of Fame. I mean... Wow, I thought we were going to have to go through all these teams. I actually would bet that it is the Jaguars. You brought up a good point about expansion teams.
Yeah. I mean, did the Jags come around after Tampa Bay and Carolina?
That is a good question. I think they did, though.
That would be the only problem with that then.
That would be. Okay.
So Houston came after as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Let's go through. So there's got to be one offensive player in the Hall of Fame for all these teams. I mean, well, now Ravens. Start with the Ravens. Actually, I don't know. Is Jimmy Smith in the Hall of Fame?
Does it count if it's like the Baltimore Colts? They got to have like...
That's a good,
Johnny Unitas or something in the Hall of Fame for the Ravens.
And it says who they selected. Okay, and so they give an example here, like Tampa Bay's been around, but Steve Young started his career with the Bucs. He was drafted in a special supplemental draft, so it didn't count. Otherwise, the Bucs would have a player like that. So think about the very origin of their team. So Baltimore Colts. I think that would probably count for Baltimore, and not Colts. Johnny Unitas. Steelers. You got Franco Harris. Browns. Jim Brown. Bengals. There's a couple guys there. Anthony Munoz.
Yeah. And for the Ravens, I want to say they had Shannon Sharp, didn't they?
Yeah, that's true as well.
That's a Hall of Famer.
They drafted him, correct?
What? Yeah. What about Atlanta?
Atlanta.
Is Mike Vick in the Hall of Fame?
No, he's not.
He deserves to be, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know if he's eligible yet. He might be. Because I know, like, Peyton Manning, I think this is his year, right? Or no, is he already in there?
Yeah, Peyton Manning's in.
He is in there? Okay. Mike Vick retired in 2015. Yeah, he would be eligible. He's not in there. Atlanta.
I think he's not a Hall of Famer. Can you think of any other Atlanta Falcons offensive players? Was that had to be an offensive player, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking, like, Gerald Riggs is not in the Hall of Fame. He was a good running back for them. Like, Warwick Dunn, I don't think is in the Hall of Fame. I mean, Julio Jones is going to be in there, but he's not right now.
I can't think of any 90s Falcons players, any 80s Falcons players.
Yeah.
Frankly, I don't even know when the Falcons became a franchise.
I mean, they had Chris Chandler, quarterback in, like, I think the 70s and 80s, so I think they've been around at least before that. The other team I was thinking of is the Cardinals, because they've been around forever. I'm trying to think of offensive guys.
Larry Fitz isn't in yet, is he?
Yeah, he's not in yet. So I was thinking them maybe. Or no, they have some quarterbacks.
Does Emmitt Smith count?
For
Kurt Warner? I feel like the Cardinals got to have one. Plus, they're one of those franchises that were like the Chicago Cardinals way back in the day.
Yeah.
They've been around since the 20s. They got to have a couple offensive Hall of Famers.
This question is who is drafted by them. So yeah, I would say like Emmitt Smith wouldn't count for them. It's who drafted by them.
Okay.
I don't know. I have a good feeling about the Falcons. I'm trying to think of who else would be in there. Roddy White is not in the Hall of Fame.
I'm leaning Falcons. Roddy White. That's a good name.
Now, here is the thing, though. The Falcons did draft Brett Favre, who is in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, wow. Oh,
and
man.
that might count for them.
I forgot about Favre.
So, franchise that's been around longer in the Super Bowl era that hasn't picked an offensive players. Yeah, it probably can't be the Falcons because Brett Favre.
So let's go Bears. They got an offensive player in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Lions do.
Yep.
Packers do.
Yep. Vikings
do.
Yep.
Randy Moss, Chris Carter. So we're looking at the Panthers, the Bucks. Anybody in the NFC South? The Falcons.
Saints. I think is Arch Manning.
Arch Manning might be a Hall of Famer. Maybe Ricky Williams.
Yeah, he might be in there. I'm trying to think.
Drew Brees. He's not in yet.
Oh, no, he is. Isn't he? He's got to be. He's got to be. He's not yet. Okay, yeah, he's not eligible. Oh, he retired in 2020. I'm tripping. Wow, that felt like so long ago.
Well, he was done playing probably at about 2018.
Yeah.
And then he just forced his way into those next 2 years.
I mean, yeah, Cardinals, I feel like they had to have drafted somebody that went to another. See, this is so difficult because if they draft it with the team, they go to another team.
It's really tough. And they happen with those draft night trades too.
Yep.
Where, yeah, it's confusing there.
I mean, Eagles do, Cowboys do, Giants do, Washington does. I think Sammy Baugh counts for them.
Yeah. And like Clinton Portis, some of those organizations that have been around since like the 30s or the 40s, you could just count them out.
Yeah.
Because they probably got somebody from
they
like
have to have someone.
the 1930s. They got like a running back.
Yep. Patriots, Jets, Bills, Dolphins, Marino.
New York Jets, Namath.
Yeah, he's in there.
Namath Hall of Famer.
Thinking like, yeah, Raiders have one, Chargers have one, Broncos do, Chiefs do.
This is just the process of elimination, honestly.
I'm leaning towards the Cardinals. They've been around for so long, so maybe not. Oh man, this is so tough. I'd say in the next minute we throw a team out there and see if it sticks.
I mean, by the process of elimination, I would want to go with. I mean, we talked about them for so long. The Falcons, the Brett Favre thing is throwing me off. Taking a look right now.
Honestly, the Saints. I don't know who the Saints have in the Hall of Fame for offensive players.
I like that answer, honestly. And all NFC South teams, too, with the Bucks, the Panthers, and the Saints.
Right.
I feel like that would be a little bit fitting. The Saints have been around for a while. Wasn't Eli Manning or like Peyton Manning's dad
Arch
a New
Manning.
Orleans Saint? Was he a Hall of Famer?
I don't think he was. I'm actually pretty confident he wasn't. He was not. Yeah. I think I would probably guess the Saints because I'm looking at all these other teams and they have At least one person who I can think of, or they've just been around for so long.
Yeah. Ooh. Seattle. Just thought of that. Is Sean Alexander in the Hall of Fame? Damn.
He is.
Of course he is. One Madden cover and he's in the Hall of Fame, of course.
Yeah, Peyton Hillis should get up there. I say we just send it, man. Let's pick a team.
I say I like New Orleans.
All right, let's go
like
New Orleans
a
here.
lot.
All right, so the answer is
the New Orleans Saints.
New York Giants.
Damn.
New York Giants?
New York Giants don't have a Hall of Famer on the offensive side of the ball? Are you serious?
I guess not. Because Eli Manning's not in. Phillip Rivers. Technically, Phillip Rivers drafted by the Giants.
Yeah.
I was running through. I thought Tiki Barber was in the Hall of Fame for sure.
I was thinking that with the Bucks. When you showed the Bucks, I was like, which one of the Barber brothers was a running back?
Yep.
That guy's not in the Hall of Fame?
Apparently not.
I thought they both were inducted within the last few years.
Yeah, Rondé Barber was. Yeah, Tiki Barber is not in the Hall of Fame, actually. Wow. That's crazy. Shout out. He had a great career down the stretch from his prime was age 27 to 31. And then I was thinking also Amani Toomer is their all-time franchise wide receiver.
Well, we know Eli Manning's getting in within the next probably 5 years.
Yeah. Wow.
He got a couple rings. That shocks me, honestly. I thought the New York Giants as well. I'm not sure when they came into the league, but I feel like that's a pretty old franchise.
It's because Y.A. Tittle has a bunch of passing records. He's played like, I want to say the 50s or 60s. I know he was on the Giants. So, yeah, that has to be an old franchise. The fact that they don't have an offensive Hall of Famer is
Talk
crazy.
About a sad organization.
Yeah.
The Giants have been in the NFL since 1925.
Oh, man.
Not one offensive Hall of Famer that they've drafted.
And the first guy to do it is probably going to be Phillip Rivers, who didn't play a snap for him. That's New York Giants football.
That's crazy.
Now,
That
I will say, the defense is one of the best of all time. You got Michael Strahan and
Lawrence
Taylor.
Yep.
Not a Hall of Famer, but shout out Jason Sehorn, elite cornerback. But yeah, okay. Well, you know what? I like that better than the headband question.
Yeah.
But okay, stumped us there on that one.
Yeah, that one actually, it caused me to really think about the history of the NFL and what I really know.
Right.
So I enjoy that, testing my knowledge, making me pick my brain a little bit.
Right. And I guess my last question is, who is the Saints' offensive Hall of Famer? Because I'm looking through right now.
I don't know.
Oh, Kenny Stabler was drafted by the Saints.
Couldn't tell you who that is.
Yeah. He was, or I'm thinking of Ken Anderson. No, Ken Stabler, he was Bengals quarterback, I believe. I think it was Raiders and Bengals. Kenny Stabler. Oh, no, just Raiders. Yeah, so apparently he was drafted by the Saints, but then never played. He was drafted in 69 and played for Oakland until 79. And then he played for the Saints at the end of his career. That is...
Okay.
Oh, no. No, that doesn't count. He wasn't drafted by them.
So it looks like the Saints have I guess one NFL Hall of Famer on the offensive side of the ball, and that would be an offensive tackle, Willie Roaf.
Ah.
You heard that name before?
I have. Yeah, Willie Roaf.
And then they got a kicker, Morton Anderson. I've heard that name.
Yep.
I don't know if that counts as the offensive side of the ball.
Nah, I can't. But Willie Roaf does. That makes... Okay. That I wouldn't have thought of that, but yes, Willie Roaf is a great all-time tackle.
Yeah, man. Good old number 77.
Yeah.
Good for him, man.
Yeah.
Screwed up our trivia question.
Giants, I mean, come on. Get your guys in there. Start drafting well. We spent a lot of time on that one, so let's go ahead and move on here. But if you, the listeners, want to try out the fantasy or the football trivia, you can go to fantasyindex.com, where cheaters always prosper, their slogan. And you can go try out some trivia for yourself. Now, before we get into some of the other topics that we want to talk about today, we have a quick PSA.
Wilder Things magazine is the only on-campus literary magazine dedicated to promoting and uplifting works of speculative fiction. They publish a print volume in the fall and a digital issue in the spring, highlighting pieces from undergraduates across the globe. To stay up to date on all things Wilder, follow on Instagram at WilderThingsMag or visit online.
All right, welcome back. So we did our trivia. Let's talk about some things that happened this past week. So a lot of stuff in the NFL, both on and off the field. A couple guys getting in some legal trouble. We got a couple firings, a couple AFC teams looking pretty good, and some teams looking not so good. Let's go ahead and start out. Let's talk about Frank Reich. So Panthers start 1-10. They hired Frank Reich, former Colts coach. Had some success in the past with Andrew Luck, and without him, not so much success. He is out after less than one season. Along with Reich came Deuce Staley, assistant head coach, and also Josh McCown, the quarterback's coach. So Panthers rolling with Chris Tabor, their special teams coordinator, now as their head coach. Gavin, thoughts on this?
That's interesting to have the special teams coordinator step up to the head coach spot. I like McCown. I think McCown's going to go out there and probably get another quarterback's coach job, maybe a offensive coordinator job. Frank Reich, the things I'm hearing, kind of rumors being spread throughout the media, is that he and Panthers owner David Tepper disagreed on whether or not to draft Bryce Young. Tepper's kind of notorious for being one of those owners that's like a micromanager, trying to tell the football guys what to do. Me personally, if I'm a multi-billionaire and I own a football team, I would let the football coaches decide what to do, and I wouldn't really put my foot in the door that much. Carolina, I don't know. I mean, who's going to be some coaching candidates coming up this offseason? Who do you think they need?
Well, you got Bryce Young. You trade up a ton to get him. Tepper in that press conference, he said, well, he did start off pretty bad. He was like, well, we were thinking about taking C.J. Stroud. I was like, okay, you can't say that with your quarterback.
Can't say that. Not right now.
But he did then cover himself, and he was like, well, we're super confident in the Bryce Young pick. Well, you have to be.
You have to be.
2 first-rounders and DJ Moore and a ton of other stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to get an offensive guy who wants to work with Bryce. As much as I would like this guy to come to the Bears, I mean, Ben Johnson is a guy we talk about all the time, Lions OC. Could be a really good opportunity for him to get a young quarterback, kind of have his way with that offense. It's pretty empty. There's a lot of room for renovation. You don't have any real set receivers there. I mean, Adam Thielen is old, and they drafted a couple guys like Jonathan Mingo. They have Terrace Marshall, but those guys are all replaceable depending on what personnel you want as a head coach when you come in there. So
yeah,
same with the running back room, kind of open, and the O-line needs an overhaul. So really, this is a tough spot because, 3 head coaches fired in the last 5 years for Tepper. That's not ideal. Like you said, that's maybe not the smartest management by Tepper, being kind of a micromanager, kind of not letting the coach do their thing.
Yeah, and my thing is I think the owner and the management might kind of just be driving away good players and good prospects. That's the last thing you want from an NFL franchise. Ben Johnson, who you just mentioned, Lions offensive coordinator, interviewed for one head coaching position last offseason with the Carolina Panthers.
Interesting.
Denied that job, declined that proposition, and ended up coming back to Detroit. Mm-hmm. I just find that interesting that he had one interview with Carolina and he thought, no, I'll just go continue to be an offensive coordinator.
Right. Yeah, it is very interesting. Because, even before the whole Frank Reich thing, I mean, they had Matt Rule, I didn't think was a good coach. His offense was super predictable. You could tell if they were running a run play based off of how McCaffrey was lined up in the backfield. There's a whole video on that. It's actually ridiculous how terrible that offense was run. But then before that, they had Steve Wilkes there for like a year. Same thing, fired him in the middle, didn't really give him a chance. So if you're a head coach, you got to be looking at the spot with Panthers, and you're like, I don't know if I want to take that job, because I don't know, if to be a head coach of a team that has a top 5 pick, you have to allow some time for them to be bad. And head coaches are like, well, unless I'm going to go around and get 10 wins immediately, my job might be in jeopardy. So that maybe isn't the most appealing spot. Now, I will say this, Frank Reich, definitely, I think, was a questionable hire because he was fired just last year for being bad at calling offensive plays with the Colts. So I think that was questionable to begin with. And also, no matter how bad you are as a head coach, 1-10 is pretty rough.
I agree with you, though. I agree with you there, but I mean, he had some pretty good stints with the Chargers. as a quarterbacks coach, as an offensive coordinator, and then with the Eagles, 16, 17, I believe he won a Super Bowl with the Eagles as an offensive coordinator. Frank Reich's not a bad football coach. He just got put in a really tough spot. And yeah, unfortunately, if you're the head of the snake, that's where they're going to cut you first when the team's not playing well.
Yep, that is very true. I like what you said about Josh McCown as well. I think he's going to be a great either quarterbacks coach, maybe offensive coordinator. I mean, Texans had interviewed him for the head coaching job last year. So, yeah, I think he'll be back in the coaching force sometime soon. Meanwhile, Reich himself said that he might be nearing the end of his coaching journey.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, hopefully somebody will give another shot, maybe as a coordinator or a QB coach. But it looks like his head coaching days might be over. Well, speaking of young quarterbacks, we had a big game in the NFC North. By big, I mean terribly boring and yet somehow exciting game between the Bears and the Vikings. Nice little 12-10 win there for Chicago.
Oh, my gosh.
Get their 4th win of the year. Fields, man, really good completion percentage. Had a couple costly fumbles, but was able to lead his first game-winning drive, his first real game-winning drive of his career. Down there, get them in range, won the game.
Yeah. As a fan of an opposing NFC North team, Fields is fun to watch. And I think once he gets an offensive line in front of him, he's going to be that much better. He's going to be able to show his pocket presence. He's going to be able to show his arm. I think right now, it seems like every single snap, he's getting rushed within like half a second, a quarter of a second. And it's like, yeah, it looks cool. You get some fun highlights out of it, but he's scrambling for his life on like every play. And if he's not, it's because they called a screen. And that's getting blown up behind the line of scrimmage. I got a lot of friends who are Iowa Hawkeye fans and Chicago Bears fans. I'm going to pray for you because that sucks. I watched that game and I had to turn it off at halftime. I also had a couple bets that didn't go my way, but I had to turn that game off because it was just so brutal to watch. It was really like an Iowa Hawkeye football game.
Truly. And it really sucks to see that just because, I mean, Justin Fields is the most exciting player the Bears have had since probably Devin Hester. You can argue someone like Matt Forte, but yeah, I mean, if you look at the chart of his completions, over half of them were behind the line of scrimmage, and that is just crazy. I was thinking about this a lot, about the game plan and how they operate things. Right now, Luke Getsy, I mean, you couldn't fire a coach after a performance like that because at the end of the day, he won. He got the win, even though you can credit it to the defense, really, at 4 picks. But Getsy is running an offense that is the most conservative offense. He's doing screen passes, short runs on a 3rd and 7 when you have a real shot at scoring and getting into the red zone. He's going to run it up the middle. He is running the most conservative offense. And that, to me, tells me a lot about his faith in Justin Fields, which is very strange to me, consider the few times that he has let him throw the deep ball. He has had outstanding accuracy, hasn't turned the ball over on his deep throws, and he just refuses to let him. In that Lions game, could have iced the game with a deep ball to Tyler Scott. Scott couldn't locate that, slowed up on his route, was unable to reel it in. And then in that same game, he had a long pass to DJ Moore. Fields said in a press conference a week before, I think the deep ball is one of my strengths. And Getsy said, okay, buddy, we're going to call 20 screen passes for you. And I get that the Vikings are a tough defensive team. A lot of credit to Brian Flores, but they blitz on 52% of the plays. Wow. Last time when they played the Vikings, Fields was getting sacked within 0.5 seconds. That's how he got hurt the last time. It's this very simple concept. You draw the quick flats or the drags to just beat the blitz. They don't hide much. When there's 6 guys at the line, they're rushing the 6. There's not a lot of disguised looks from the Vikings.
Yeah, you could kind of see that coming. Fields took a couple shots, too. Yeah. I saw Bears fans were kind of worried. But I think the general consensus from Bears fans is that Fields is the guy. And I think the Bears need to kind of follow the trend that's been going on lately and fire their offensive coordinator. You saw Iowa do it with Ferentz. You saw the Steelers fire Matt Canada, put up 400 yards next week. Teams tend to play well when you fire a coach the week before.
That is true. And I want to talk about Canada for a second here because, the Steelers, I mean, me personally, I don't think Kenny Pickett should have been a first-round quarterback. I think he is talented. Ben Klein, if you're listening to the show, sorry, man. I know you're a big Steelers fan at home. I wouldn't say I'm super confident that Kenny Pickett's a franchise quarterback. However, you fired Canada, like you said, 400 yards the first time on offense. That just goes to show you, if you are a well-coached team, which under Mike Tomlin, one of the best coaches in the NFL, you will have a good game plan. I don't know who is calling the plays currently for the Steelers, but 400 yards. So even if you have a quarterback who has some question marks, you're still able to run the offense with good coaching. Whereas the Bears, you have the quarterback, you have DJ Moore, you have all these pieces, and the coach is really just holding the offense back.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett's not the guy. He was never the guy. His hands are too small. From the moment he was drafted, it was like he was just kind of like a 50-50 prospect. You really didn't know. When Fields was drafted, you saw the arm talent, you saw the speed, the agility. He can run the ball. He's accurate throwing the football, and he's won big games. You know, win the Big Ten championship, won that. He was playing in the college football playoff. I think it's a very different situation from Pittsburgh to Chicago. I think Fields, you have your guy. You just need a coordinator who's gonna draw up plays, come up with a scheme that really caters to Fields' abilities.
Yep, I completely agree. Need to go get an offensive guy. The Bears have rotated kind of every year, switched off offensive, defensive. If you follow that cycle, time to get an offensive guy. But, you know, frankly, the defense actually has been playing extremely well the last 4 weeks. They've played some bad teams.
That's Eberflus calling the defense.
Yes, it is. Don't even have a defensive coordinator. They're right now the number one rush defense in the NFL.
Wow.
Which that's something I had no idea was going on really for half the season, but...
Well, yeah, the Lions were the number one defense, rushing defense in the NFL through like 6 weeks.
What happened, man?
Yeah, we ran into the Bears, man.
Yeah, that is true. Fields always usually has good rushing games against the Bears. Yeah, I think if you, for some reason, you got to fire Flus. He had a 14-game losing streak. I mean,
do you? You said the
that's
number
the question.
One rushing defense.
That is the question. The secondary's played really well. I feel like as a head coach, I'm not confident in his leadership abilities.
Yeah.
However, I can see a vision where Poles, he says, hey, we'll give you another year. We'll keep you on a short leash, but you got to go out and get the OC. Mm-hmm. You got to. I am so confident Getsy will not be the offensive coordinator in the next year. Now the Flus question becomes more blurred every week. But it will be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and I don't really know. I'm not too familiar with the inner workings of an NFL franchise, but can you just like demote Eberflus to D coordinator and then go get somebody or what?
You definitely could. I just think that would be really unlikely that Eberflus would want to stay in a lesser role. He's already been through so much, like as the coach. He's had to fire his defensive, or I guess the defensive coordinator resigned. His running backs coach was fired. So I think if they're like, Bears are like, hey, we want to keep you, but you're not going to be the head coach, I doubt he would want to stay. But yeah, I mean, you never know. I guess weirder things have happened.
Yeah. So if you're looking at the offseason, you think Eberflus might be gone. Who are some guys that you're interested? Who would you like to see become the next head coach of the Chicago Bears?
We need an offensive guy. I think that I keep talking about Ben Johnson. I love what he's done with the Lions. I think that he would be fantastic as a head coach. Eric Bieniemy, I think that in the past he has shown some red flags as a leader, but overall he runs a pretty effective offense. Sam Howell obviously has some turnovers this year, but besides the turnovers, he's actually looking like a pretty good quarterback, perhaps somebody who could be their franchise guy. And so, yeah, I think we got to stick on the offensive side of the ball. There's always a random quarterbacks coach who could be brought up. I'm trying to think. Anybody on the Bengals staff, honestly, I like, who worked with Burrow and that offense because they had a pretty good one. I mean, obviously it's powered by Zach Taylor, but I would be in favor of that.
What about, I don't know, rumors are circulating. He's suspended right now. Head coach of the Michigan Wolverines. Harbaugh, does he come home?
Former Bear as a player. Yeah, that's such an intriguing option, man. I think that, honestly, we would have a lot of success under Harbaugh if we were to give him this current roster, give him Fields. You look at what he did with Kaepernick when he was on that team and had a lot of success. I mean, was in that Super Bowl, very much so, till the end. But yeah, I've never personally been a big fan of Harbaugh just as a person, frankly. So I don't know if I would really necessarily go out there and advocate for him. However, if he ended up being our coach next year, beggars can't be choosers. If we're going to win under
Yeah.
him, I would take that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would take it if I were you. I think if Michigan wins a championship this year, I could see him leaving. Honestly, I think it's kind of 50-50 either way, depending on what happens with Michigan, if he's out or not. He might just be fed up with the entire NCAA as an organization.
Yep.
But people are saying that the Chicago Bears are kind of interested and that Harbaugh hasn't really turned the shoulder away from going to the NFL. And, I mean, the people who are saying that is just Colin Cowherd. So, I don't know. He could be lying to us.
Yeah.
He could just kind of be searching for headlines. But it's certainly fun just to kind of speculate.
Absolutely.
Harbaugh to the Bears, like you mentioned, he coached Colin Kaepernick, had success with that offense. Fields, to me, just kind of seems like Kaepernick with a better arm. I feel like that would be really interesting to watch.
You think that there's any chance they would hire him just as the offensive coordinator if they kept Flus as head coach?
I think the Bears would be down for that. I don't think Harbaugh would be. I
Right.
think he has too much respect for himself. He's too much of a man to do that.
I agree. Another coordinator who I've given some thought to, Todd Monken, the Ravens OC. He's a new guy there since they got rid of their former offensive coordinator. I can't remember his name, but Lamar has been pretty good this year. A little bit inconsistent, but overall, I mean, that's another example of a mobile quarterback with a really good arm, a really underrated arm at this point. And I think that could be interesting to see what he does with Fields. But I would maybe like that as an offensive coordinator pick. I don't know as a head coach, just because that Ravens offense has been a little inconsistent. But they also don't have the same, I guess, playmakers that we have. Because I like Zay Flowers a lot, but he's not quite DJ Moore yet. Although they do compare nicely, I will say.
They do, honestly.
OBJ is still a pretty good deep threat, but, I mean...
When he's on the field.
Yeah, when he's on the field, right.
And another, I mean, like, with the Ravens, yeah, you said Todd Monken, he's a good coordinator. But, like, how long has he been there?
I think this is his first year. I could be wrong.
Okay, because that's kind of what you need when you're going to hire a head coach and an offensive coordinator, maybe even a D coordinator all in one offseason. It's going to take more than just one season for that to kind of click. Mm-hmm. Make sure that these guys agree on what kind of players they need, what kind of offense they want to run, what kind of guys they want to plug into those schemes. Might take a couple off seasons. Yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts on that.
And he was this is his first year in the Ravens, because I remember he was at Georgia last year.
Nice.
The year before, he was the OC and the quarterbacks coach.
Wow.
But yeah, man, Harbaugh, that's a really interesting proposition there. We'll have to see how that whole saga plays out with Michigan. I don't think it's quite done yet. They kind of disciplined him yet, but the NCAA has said they're not going to let him just escape to the NFL and escape punishment. I don't know if that means they have more planned for him down the road. Could be interesting to see. But I do want to switch topics here. I want to do a quick segment on this because this is something I've noticed. Always the Bears come in, they bring in a bunch of talent. They don't seem to work out. They get rid of that talent and they flourish, right? Khalil Mack is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. The man has 13 and a half sacks.
Wow.
Despite Brandon Staley being a terrible coach, he has still managed to flourish.
Yeah.
And I do just want to shout out Khalil Mack because, I mean, what he has been doing this year has been pretty amazing. He's on a big contract. He's got to play up to it, right? He's 32. He's got 13 sacks so far this year. He had a 6-sack game and multiple 2-sack games. So
A 6-sack game?
yes.
Who was that against?
Destroyed the Raiders in his revenge game against Aiden O'Connell. Had 6 sacks.
I was going to say, I haven't heard anything about Khalil Mack. I mean, he played against the Lions. He didn't have a sack, so maybe that's just what happens when you play Detroit.
Yeah, good old line over there. But, yeah, I did want to give him a shout-out because, yeah, it's something that, like you said, not many people are talking about that a ton, but he has a lot of quarterback hits, a lot of sacks. He's got a ton of pass deflections already as well. And
Yeah,
it's
I'm
only
looking
11
right now.
games through.
4 forced fumbles for Khalil Mack this season?
Let's see.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
crazy. 13 sacks, 4 forced fumbles. Totally a Defensive Player of the Year candidate.
I mean, when you think about it, this is almost his career high. His career high is in the second year. He had 15 sacks, which you think of Khalil Mack and you're like, wow, this is a legendary defensive player. You think he'd have more than that. I mean, the thing is, he was playing a hybrid linebacker role. So, yeah, he had 5 forced fumbles that year, his defensive player. And he also had pass deflections. He had an interception. So he was kind of doing everything.
Yeah.
You're seeing more of that in the Chargers playing back in that outside linebacker role. But he could have a career high in sacks at age 32.
longevity, man. I respect it with an athlete like Khalil Mack. It just kind of went under my radar. I guess the Chargers are just so mid.
Yeah.
You can have 4 sacks in a game, but if the other team still scores 38 points, what was it really worth, you know?
Right, exactly. And that's so tough. I mean, that's Brandon Staley, another guy, got to go. But I don't know if the Chargers are going to make any moves, really.
Yeah, it's like a verbal meme. It's like that Lamborghini sitting in the dumpy-looking garage, you know? Yeah. What do you do with Bosa, Derwin James, Khalil Mack, who you're paying all this money, and they can't win more than 10 games in a season?
It's pretty sad. Right now, they're actually at the bottom of their division. This division includes the Broncos and the Raiders. The Chargers had their bye, which is why the Raiders are 5-7 and they're 4-7. The Raiders are going to have their bye this week. So if the Chargers win, they'll be tied with them.
Chargers are worse than I even thought that they were.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So free Justin Herbert. Those guys in offense have been letting him down too. Eckler has been playing well. He's been fumbling. Keenan Allen is an elite receiver, but he had a couple of drop touchdowns the last couple of weeks. So another really interesting spot to look out for. Maybe who could be a head coach for that team next year.
Yeah.
I doubt it's going to be Staley.
Yeah, I think Staley's definitely gone. I like Ben Johnson for that candidacy.
Man, he could go everywhere.
Yeah.
He could go anywhere.
I honestly wouldn't mind seeing Ben Johnson go to the Chargers because they're kind of a team that, like, I've been high on Herbert. I thought the Lions should have drafted Herbert when he came out in, I think, 2020, 2021.
2020, yeah.
So, yeah, I guess I would say the Chargers, if Ben Johnson goes to the Chargers, they would be my AFC team. I'll declare that right now.
Interesting. Let's talk about some other stuff that happened this week. We had some off-the-field things. So
some weird stuff, huh?
Yeah. Von Miller, warrant for his arrest. He assaulted a pregnant woman, and he turned himself in yesterday to the police.
Jeez.
That is just really sad to hear in all facets. I think he ran into some trouble legally a couple years ago as well. He was sending some text messages, something surfaced about that. But, now all of a sudden he is getting arrested. Meanwhile, on the football side of things, he's in the middle of a 6-year, $120 million contract with the Bills. If they were to cut him, they would eat $40 million in dead cap.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. You just hate seeing things like this. I saw the warrant went out for his arrest, and he turned himself in, making it kind of seem like these allegations are true. You hate seeing it. It sucks for the Bills. They didn't really start the season off that great. They were kind of getting things going these last few weeks, and then you lose probably your best edge rusher. That sucks, but there's no place for that in the NFL or just in life in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And it turns out this one was actually his pregnant girlfriend. And so kind of dipping into that domestic abuse territory, that is never a good thing. And it seems like he was arrested and then released on bond immediately after that.
Yeah.
So Bills have a decision to make. I think there's really one right answer here, but with contract stuff, it makes it more of a tough decision.
It sucks. Now, I'm not sure if you have any idea. What happens if the NFL suspends him from the league? Do the Bills still eat that money?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think they probably do. I'm honestly not too sure, but either way, they may have a clause somehow where they put him on the NFL list and they can technically have him on the roster. I think, man, who is the Jaguars wide receiver? Was it Will Blackman? The Jaguars wide receiver. They drafted in the first round. Ton of legal issues. Was technically in the NFL on their team roster for like 4 or 5 years after that. But he was suspended from the NFL. So we could see something like that. Now, I don't know if that contract would still be active.
Yeah.
But if he was technically on their roster, I guess maybe.
Yeah, hey, man, it's the NFL. Stuff like this happens all the time.
Yeah, unfortunately it does.
It's really sad. It happens in the NBA a little bit too. You see it. But I wouldn't be surprised if Goodell gives him like 2 games and lets him come back. It's some Goodell stuff, man.
Yeah, unfortunately, especially if he got out on bond. So you hate to see that. Von Miller, get it together, man.
Yeah, that's just sad. Something that's even more like, it'll just kind of like flip your opinion on somebody so fast. Ryan Shazier.
Yeah.
What a story he used to be. And then checked Twitter yesterday and wow, it's a new story.
Yeah, if you don't know what happened with that, Ryan Shazier, very talented young linebacker for the Steelers a couple years ago, had a terrible injury on, I believe, a Monday night football game or Sunday night football game where he was literally paralyzed on the field. Took him off the stretcher. He had to relearn how to walk. There was this whole award ceremony, the NFL honors, where a couple years later, where his wife was like helping him walk across the stage. It was this huge event. Like, oh my gosh, he's actually doing okay. Kind of like Johnny Knox back in the day, had a terrible injury, kind of had to relearn how to walk. And unfortunately, texts were revealed from the Shazier family iPad by Miss Shazier.
The family iPad.
Yes, the family iPad.
Come on, Ryan.
That Ryan was...
How long have you been in the game? You got to know this stuff, man.
He's cheating on his wife, it looks like. Sending her some very explicit books on how to perform certain acts, which I don't even know if we can talk about on this show.
We could avoid it.
Yeah, but that is a crazy story, and just what a sad thing. Just your wife is there supporting you through your actual paralyzation, and somehow you decide that that's not enough. And with your family and everything.
And
woman.
I mean, the wife that helped you walk up onto the stage, she got you through your whole recovery, essentially. And then the texts come out. I'm reading these texts. At first, it seems like Shazier just made a friend. You know, he's asking, "How are you? You know, like, what do you like to do?" All that. And then, as Zach mentioned, it kind of got a little bit creepy, so to say. Books about topics were sent out.
In the bedroom,
certain emojis, certain seductive emojis were used. And Shazier, I mean, just completely flipped the script on that guy to go from just one of the best stories in NFL, an NFL legend, you know, a guy that you think so highly of, you know, what a career it could have been, just to a guy that cheats on his wife. And that sucks.
It's sad to see, man. So the moral of the story is, if you're an NFL player, get it together, treat your women right. Okay, they're your number one fans, your best supporters, your girlfriends, your wives. Get it together, man.
Mrs. Shazier 50 on Instagram said, "A person that loves his family, this is what they do to their family. The wife that has been there for him since day one, infidelity at its finest."
That is so sad, man.
Poor Shazier, man.
Yeah. Well, I hope they get that situation figured out, and man, best of luck to the Shazier family. Let's go back to some more football topics here. One more topic I want to discuss before we go into our pick'ems. Let's see here. Russell Wilson, he's not shooting the team in the foot anymore. All of a sudden, Broncos find themselves at 6-5. They started 0-3. Sean Payton seems to have things clicking. What do you think about the Broncos, man? They're number 2 in their division right now.
They seem to be figuring it out. Lions play them in like 2 weeks, and I'm nervous. We can't stop any quarterback with any sort of legs, and that's kind of what Russell Wilson seems to be doing. He seems like he's gotten back to his old self. In a way, he's been using his legs a lot more. Although last week 2 rushing fumbles, don't really want to see that, but he had a rushing touchdown. I think he's been getting out of the pocket, making plays, improvising a little bit more. I hope him and Sean Payton have kind of gotten on the same page, and hopefully that's allowed Russell Wilson to have a little bit more freedom in the offense, because he does look he's playing more loose.
Yeah, absolutely. That's more of the prime Russell Wilson that we remember, you know, roll out of the pocket, give that moon ball 50 yards down to Tyler Lockett. He's got a great connection with Courtland Sutton. Broncos actually look pretty good. And since that brutal 70-20 loss against the Dolphins, their defense has played really well down the stretch too. They obviously got rid of Chubb last year, but they haven't really had that pass rusher to replace him. They tried Randy Gregory. That didn't really work out for them. But they got a lot of young guys, Jonathan Cooper, Baron Browning, some defensive linemen who have stepped up. You've got a couple DBs who have been turnover machines for them, obviously Pat Surtain. But yeah, they've been a really fun team to watch. Well, I don't know about exhilarating, but you know, they've been a good team to watch in the last couple weeks. Russell Wilson leading the NFL in touchdown to interception percentage, in a good way, that is. I think he has 20 touchdowns and 4 picks. So it's good to see prime Russ back. He had a really rough year last year on and off the field, and it seems to be he's getting his mojo back, and a lot of credit to Sean Payton. Yeah.
Only thing that concerns me is 7 fumbles on the year. The D-line gets to him. I hope his escapability is back. But yeah, the Broncos, the offense isn't exactly fun to watch, but it makes for fun games because a lot of them have been close lately. You know, you had that Buffalo game, that Minnesota game. and then Green Bay a few weeks before that. And Russell Wilson, I don't know if I would say he's clutch, but he can still handle the moment.
Yeah, and that's one thing is he hasn't really turned it over in the last couple of weeks when he's needed to step up. They had the Bills game, that led down the field. That was a weird ending. They had the field goal mishap where they had too many men on the field and it pushed them into range. But yeah, he hasn't been letting the team down, which is really, that's the main thing. Because yeah, he's like 34, aging quarterback, big contract. It's a second team, first year with a new head coach. So expectations can only be so high, but for what he's been asked to do, he has not hindered the team, and that has been something that he did last year. And so it is good to see, Broncos firing on all cylinders, and Broncos country is riding a little bit.
Let's ride.
Let's ride. So speaking of the Broncos, they have a big game this week. Let's go through our top 3 matchups. I think there were really only 2 big ones that stood out to me this week. Let's start with the Broncos versus the Texans. And we'll do these. We got 3 pick'ems here. We'll probably spend about 5 minutes on them. But yeah, Broncos, Texans. C.J. Stroud looking great. Texans trying to make a playoff push. Broncos still hanging in there for the division. They actually do have a game against the Chiefs, so they're only 2 games behind now. Yeah, what do you think, man? Broncos versus Texans at Houston. What's your call?
Man, I'm going to just go Houston because I've loved watching C.J. Stroud all year. The guy's been insanely fun to watch. I'm probably going to bet the over on his passing yards. Hope he throws for like 350 on the Broncos. I kind of hope it's a shootout. Both of these offenses have gotten things clicking here in the later 4 weeks of the season. I'm hoping for like a fun shootout to watch. Is that a noon game?
It is a noon game, yes.
It's a noon game. Yeah, I'll probably wake up, watch Stroud and Russell Wilson. Kind of maybe Russell Wilson passing the throne a little bit, passing the torch to C.J. Stroud maybe?
Yeah, perhaps. One franchise quarterback on his way out and one franchise quarterback on his way in. I'm going to take the Broncos here. They just have so much momentum. They have won the last 5 games. This would be game 6. Big game against the Bills, big game against the Chiefs. Packers not easy to take care of. The Vikings as well handled business there. And then the Browns defense, they got past that. So I think the key here is going to be the Texans. Can their defense stop the Broncos offense?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, can the Broncos defense stop C.J. Stroud? So I think this could be like a 27-24 win for the Broncos. I could also very easily see it going to the Texans.
Yeah, I mean, you got a rookie quarterback going against a veteran head coach, Super Bowl champion, and Sean Payton. I don't know, man. I wonder if the Broncos have some tricks up their sleeves to kind of cool down the hot Texans.
Yeah, well, last time Matt Eberflus said he had a trick up his sleeve. He drew up like 5 screen passes. So I hope they actually do have some legitimate tricks up their screen. Because if Matt Eberflus and Luke Getsy were childhood magicians, they would not have a lot of parties to go to. I'll just say that. Next matchup here, perhaps one of the biggest games of the entire year, Eagles versus 49ers. Gavin, talk about it.
I like Philly, man. I've been hearing a lot of talk that Philadelphia is some frauds, and I guess we'll see Sunday at 3 p.m. This is probably going to be their hardest test all year. You get a 49ers defense that's coming into this week just rolling with Bosa and Chase Young, who has been an amazing addition to that team. Hurts is a guy that likes to scramble. You know, you get into that scramble drill, I think it's kind of up to the 49ers secondary to contain A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and even Swift out of the backfield. I'm looking at this one. I think we're gonna have another high-scoring game. I think some plays that might be the difference in this game are turnovers. You know, if Chase Young, Bosa, Fred Warner, they can get to the quarterback, create some turnovers. And the Eagles have a top 3 defense in the league on the other side as well. This is just 2 juggernauts going at it, and I just hope it makes for good football, really.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, except for I think that the Niners will come out on top here. That's the only thing I disagree with you on that. I think this is going to be a shootout, absolutely. The thing is with the Niners, whenever they've had Ayuk, Samuel, Kittle, and Brock Purdy all together, they've played so well, and they do have all their guys healthy right now. The only person they're really missing, Talanoa Hufanga, tore his ACL, the safety.
That bummed me out. I'm a big fan of that guy.
But they have Trent Williams back too. So this team is healthy. They absolutely obliterated the Seahawks last game. It was a total dominant show on offense. And it's hard for me to pick against a 10-1 team, but I think that it's unlikely that they only have one loss for the rest of the year. And I think their only other loss will be right here to the 49ers. But again, another game I can see either way. I'm just hoping for some good football, like you said.
Yeah, really. I mean, Hurts versus Purdy, I guess this is when we'll see. I mean, if Brock Purdy can take down Jalen Hurts, I mean, yeah, I might put Hurts on fraud watch.
Yeah, I mean, people are saying he has a lot of 1-yard rushing touchdowns. That's very true.
It's true, yeah.
But he has a lot of other long rushing touchdowns. I think he's getting overhated a little bit right now. But this will be a good test to either prove him wrong or maybe get exposed a little bit. So we will see.
Yeah, that'll be a fun game to watch for sure.
Should be. You know what? There are a lot of other games here that I think are pretty one-dimensional. You got Chargers, Patriots, that's a lock. I mean, Jaguars, Bengals, I think that's a lock. Miami, Washington, that's a lock. Chiefs, Packers. There's so many of these games. The one I do want to just briefly touch on real quick before we move on to our player flashback. Bucks versus Panthers. This is a divisional game. So you never really have one clear win. And divisional games can really go either way. I mean, Washington has 4 wins, and they almost beat the Philadelphia Eagles twice this year. Interim head coaches have so much luck or momentum or excitement, whatever you call it. They have a lot of luck on their first game as an interim head coach. And now with Chris Tabor, which I forgot to mention, former Bears special teamer, I absolutely love him. He brings great energy.
Yeah, that's
Dan Campbell type motivator, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So this could be a surprise win against the Buccaneers. Bucks at home. This is a 3 p.m. game. I would honestly watch out for the Panthers to upset here and get their second win.
Dude, I would bet on it for sure. I mean, you saw it with the Raiders like a couple weeks ago. You said that this guy, who the Panthers' new coach?
Chris Tabor.
I don't really know anything about him. You say he's kind of a man of the people. He gets the locker room?
Yes, absolutely.
Because that's kind of what the Raiders interim was like a few weeks ago. He just connected with the players. He was letting them like smoke cigars in the locker room and stuff like that. I think that's kind of where the difference comes in. The guys are just like feeling good. You know, you feel good, you play good. That's kind of how it goes. And I think, yeah, they might be going out there to prove somebody wrong, as the Raiders were, I think, in week like 9 or something when they fired their head coach. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I would definitely bet on the Panthers. Interim head coaches, they usually got good luck in those first games.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll see how we're doing. I'm betting against the 10-1 team, and we're both betting for the 1-10 team. So we'll see. You know, sometimes you just got to send it.
Just rock with us or just ride with us on this.
Right, exactly. Well, we got a cool player flashback for you guys that'll be coming up real quick after this 30-second ad.
Support for KRUI is provided by Little Village. Little Village is Iowa City's independent, community-supported news and culture publication. Little Village's event calendar connects readers with critical cultural opportunities. Through journalism, essays, and events, Little Village works to improve our community according to core values: affordability and access, economic and labor justice, environmental sustainability, racial justice, gender equity, quality healthcare, quality education, and critical culture. Little Village can be found in print editions at local businesses in Iowa City, as well as online at littlevillagemag.com.
All right. So, Mr. Gavin, you have a pretty cool player flashback for us. Take us back here in time, man.
Yeah, I would love to if you don't mind. One of the swaggiest players, I think probably in league history, DeAngelo Williams from Little Rock, Arkansas. You know him from the Carolina Panthers, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and maybe even the Memphis Tigers back in his college days. What do you know about DeAngelo Williams, just kind of off the top of your head?
Well, I can tell you, growing up, I was a Bears fan, but I loved the Panthers because Cam Newton, that was the first jersey I ever got. It was a Cam Newton jersey. I think I had a Brandon Marshall jersey like when I was a wee young kid. But the first jersey I ever asked for was a Cam Newton jersey. I was a big fan of the Panthers. When they had Jonathan Stewart and DeAngelo Williams both rush for 1,000 yards, that was so fun. And DeAngelo Williams was just one of the most electric players to watch, and I love him, man.
Yeah, don't forget about Mike Tolbert. Also,
Mike Tolbert.
When did Mike Tolbert get on that team?
Oh, goated fullback. Oh my gosh.
If you guys are interested in what DeAngelo Williams has been up to lately, he got inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in September, which is awesome.
That's sick.
Again, he was a Memphis Tiger. But in the last month or so, he has become a self-proclaimed World International Uno champion. He has a belt and everything. He posted a picture of himself with the belt. Uno cards on it. He posted a picture of himself sleeping in bed with the belt like he's Lionel Messi or something. And his latest Instagram post with 70 likes is him interviewing himself. says, wow, such a cool interview from the champ of champions and GOAT of GOATs, self-proclaimed international world Uno champion. Yeah, I don't really know what's up with that. I think it might just be like a family. Maybe he's playing Uno with his kids or something. He's really good. Aside from that, man, it looks like kind of his main focus right now is he's running a charity with all proceeds going to breast cancer research. So that's really a cool thing. And I mean, he's just always been like a positive guy, one of the most swaggy players in the league. I remember just like looking at him. He's got the visor on, he's got the towel hanging, and he's in the backfield juking people out. Like just one of like the coolest running backs in the league. I think he's up there with like Ricky Williams, Arian Foster, Chris Johnson, like just like a cool dude from the 2000s, 2010s.
Yeah, could not agree more. Had a phenomenal season 2008, 1,500 yards, 18 rushing touchdowns, throw on a little bit of receptions in the passing game. He was an Offensive Player of the Year candidate that year as well. So, and then with the Steelers, they brought him in at age 32 in 2015, averaged 4.5 on the ground, had 900 yards, 11 tutties. So, yeah, all-time favorite. That was an absolutely great flashback. And the fact that he is like an Uno champion now is so funny.
Self-proclaimed.
Yeah, self-proclaimed. That is true. So.
But yeah, Uno champion, actually international Uno champion of the world.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Pardon me. Yeah, that's, wow.
Just come correct.
Legend. Yeah, no, for sure. Let's go ahead and get to some questions here. We've got a few more minutes left. I like this one from Eddie. He asks, who are the top 10 kickers in the NFL? Now, I think for the sake of time, I'm gonna go top 5. Mm-hmm. So here's what I'll say: Justin Tucker is not having the best year right now, but he is number 1.
He is the best kicker in the NFL.
Can agree on that. Number 2, I gotta go, my boy Younghoe Koo.
I was liking Younghoe Koo at that spot as well.
He's a stud. He is statistically the most accurate kicker in the NFL history.
Wow.
Right now.
Weren't people kind of saying he was a bust at first? Because he was like a kicker that was drafted, which rarely happens. People were saying he was a bust at first. I think he bounced between like a couple teams. But yeah, he's been like really consistent since.
90% all time. That is above Justin Tucker currently as 89.9. So Younghoe.
That's insane.
Yeah, he's cool. For sure.
Another guy I like, Matt Prater.
Okay.
He's a Detroit Lion. I think if you look up some of the records in the NFL, Matt Prater has like every record for a kick that was like over 50 yards. He has the most made field goals over 50 yards in NFL history by like 20, like 15. Like he has a lot more than whoever's second.
And I remember him hitting a 60-yarder on the Bears a couple years ago, and that was just tough to watch. Yeah, he's a long-range demon.
Yeah.
Another guy from long range who is a stud, Jake Elliott, I think has been so clutch for them. It would be a shame not to mention him in this list.
Yeah, and not a kicker, but a punter in Pittsburgh, Presley Harvin. He's dope.
yeah. Shout out Presley as well. He's a punter. He'd be number 1 punter for sure. The other guy I want to talk about, kickers. There's a bunch of good names that we missed. Cairo Santos having a great year for the Bears. Chris Boswell, super underrated. But I do want to shout out Brandon Aubrey for the Cowboys. Rookie kicker. He is 26 of 26 on the year. And for extra points, he is 36 of 39. Missed a few extra points, but yeah, has not missed a kick this year as long as it's 58. So shout out him. Let's go ahead to another question here. You had asked Harbaugh of the Bears. We talked about that a little bit. Let's go to another one. What's going on with Jackson Smith and Jigba? This is from Ian. What do you think? Do you have any thoughts on this? I have a few thoughts on this.
Man, I really don't have a lot of thoughts. I think I had him on my fantasy team in one league, and he just wasn't really producing for me. If I had to guess, I would just probably say like maybe the offensive line's not great. Maybe Geno Smith isn't as comfortable in the pocket as he was last year. I'm a big fan of Jackson Smith and Jigba. I remember watching that Rose Bowl game when he had like 200 yards and 4 touchdowns or something like that with Stroud. That was crazy. I think he's got a lot of potential. That wide receiver requires a lot of potential. Just be patient, Seahawks fans.
Yeah, I agree. I think a simple answer as well, just not enough room. And too many cooks, right? You got DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, JSN.
Kenneth Walker, too.
Yeah, Kenneth Walker. We are actually out of time for today, but for those of you who left questions that we didn't get to answer, we will post something to our Instagram answering those a little bit. But thank you guys so much for listening. This will be uploaded onto our YouTube channel as well. Go check out the Onside Kick Show on Instagram. It's just Onside Kick Show. That's the handle. thank you guys so much for listening. Gavin, thank you so much for being here, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. Thank you to everybody who listened. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, have a good, safe weekend. Happy December, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.